Imagine if you have your vision as the car with the right team.
Imagine how quick that vision will come into the footsteps. Something that was taking 5 years, 6, 3 months.
This morning is all about leadership and influence. A very good morning to you, everybody out there. This is the Inside Show with Carl Hendricks, your host here today. And we have a very interesting topic entitled Insights on Theology. And I will introduce our guest shortly to you. But if you are online with us this morning, thank you so much for tuning. I want you please to subscribe and hit that bell every time when we're on. You will know that we are on with very interesting topics. And this morning, a topic around theology. So you always wanted to do a degree. Yes, a degree in theology. But you didn't know exactly where to start. Well, the reason for the show is to take you by the hand and guide you in order for you to obtain your wonderful degree that you so much wanted to study. You didn't know the field of study or the discipline and what that goes hand in hand with. And this morning in the studio, we're going to explain all the different disciplines and fields that you find in theology. Today in the studio with me, we have experts in that fields to guide, and not just to guide, but also to assist us. Not just to assist, but also to help. That's the good news that we have this morning, that if you want to start or pursue any degree in theology, the gentleman that's with me in the studio here today, they are not just prepared to do questions and answers. So if you have a question, I want you to post it immediately. Our producer will bring it through to us. We will answer it online, or otherwise there will be a number where you can contact us, and we will surely help you and guide you right through your career and see how we can help and assist you in this wonderful career of theology. So they will go beyond questions and answers. They will go as far as working with you after the show. So people, please feel free, ask all the questions. We are ready to answer, and we want to pursue more and more people on this beautiful path of theology. It's really a beautiful path. With me in the studio, not to waste any time, we're going to hit it immediately. We have Dr. Alan Morris. He studied philosophy at Stellenbosch University and also at UNISA, and has been awarded a PhD from the UNISA University. And later on, as we go along, he will share a little more about his journey of theology. Then we have Dr. Mochechane with us here in the studio here today. He studied social systems at Gareth Evangelical Theological Seminary and studied history of Christianity at the University of KwaZulu-Natal. A warm welcome to all the gentlemen with us here. Good morning, Dr. Morris, and just greet the audience for a while.
Good morning, Dr. Carl. Good morning to the audience. We are here to help you, and so we expect you to interact with us. Thank you so much. Dr.
Mochechane?
Good morning. As my brothers say, there is a great concern about how, let's say, the whole thing about Pentecostalism was for uneducated people. Mm-hmm. You didn't have to pursue any intelligent aspect because the Spirit was working through you and so on and so forth. But we want to bury that myth, to say there is a very close relationship between being informed and having to preach the gospel.
Thank you so much. Much appreciated. Dr. Morris, there are many different ideas of theology. Please tell us what theology is not. Just to help people out there.
Thank you, Dr. Carl. I think I'll answer the question rather, what is theology, than the question that has been posed, what is it not? So when I tell you what is theology, then you can make up your mind what it is not. First of all, people are arguing out there. They say we have the Bible, so we don't need anything else. But in theology, we recognize that the Bible was written between 2 and 3 millennia ago by many authors and compiled by many editors. Then what I'm arguing here is we have to retrieve the gist of the message from its ancient formulations and translate it into modern ways of thinking. That is what theology are trying to do. Now, what is theology? If we look at geography, it is the science of the earth. If we look at biology, it's the study of life. If we look at entomology, it's the study of insects. So should theology be considered to be the study of God or the study of the faith in God? I'd rather like to go with the definition of St. Anselm of Canterbury. He says, and he argues, he says, theology is faith seeking understanding. So if you involve in theology, your faith comes first, and you would like your faith to bring you an understanding. According to this definition, then, theology is not the study of God, because God is transcendent. We cannot study God as such. We cannot catch hold of God and put him under a microscope like an insect. We can only study our own intuition, the notion or the concepts of God. That is why we are doing theology. In closing this question, I'd like to quote Doctorates, in a book on the side of the poor. He says, theological formulations are always inadequate, meaning that those things that has been written many years ago, it is inadequate, and we're doing theology in order to bring modernization into our theology.
Well said there, Dr. Mochechane. I want to ask you a simple question that people will most of the time pose. What can you do with a theology degree for people out there? They feel like, well, I will waste my time just to do theology. Yeah. How can you help people out there?
My understanding, first, it is the fact that you want to study theology because you want to have at least a basic understanding of who God is, given the massiveness of God and the fact that nobody could ever be able to understand God in God's fullness. So you're scratching the surface. You want to understand how this massive situation can be brought into your own life. How can it make sense for you? Some have gone before us. They have wrestled with the same question: who is God, and is there a God? So you want to bring a simple understanding first to you, and then to be able to share to others. So theology, other people misunderstand it or call it the study of God. You couldn't study God; it's too big for that. You want to establish a base on which you can move forward in trying to deceive. It's like you go to the ocean with a teacup, and you want to empty the ocean in a teacup, which is impossible, but it is worth every drink. Every cup is worth having to drink. So I would my thinking and understanding of theology is the human attempt to understand the not so understandable. That's why we limit ourselves to the scriptures. Not limit, but it is only within the perimeters of biblical scripture that we want to understand God.
Yeah. Dr. Morris, on the same question. Some people feel that when they do a theological degree, that they cannot pursue other degrees within it. How can you advise people out there? Because the question is more about what can you do with a theology degree?
Okay, first of all, you can use your degree in order to pursue, if you've got a calling of pastorship, or any type of fivefold ministry leadership within the church. You can also pursue your degree in order to become an educational teacher in one of our schools, specifically. We have, and out of this church where we are today, we have encouraged people to do their theology degree in education. And at the moment, there is about 6 people that is teaching in high schools with their theological degree, which was an international degree. And they are earning a much higher salary than the normal degree people from South Africa. So there is people out there that use the theological degree as an undergraduate degree in order to step up. We have psychologists. We have people that is now in their last year of a master's in psychology that has obtained their degree through the means of this institution where we are today, and they are making it in life. There's others that went into business. They became managers, etc., etc. So this theological undergraduate degree, it gave them confidence in order to pursue life.
Well said. There are close to 40 million Christians in South Africa. And a person would think that with so many Christians in South Africa, that more people will pursue the degree in theology. Why do you think is it that so many people don't pursue this degree, and yet there are so many Christians in South Africa?
On the contrary, I think there are a lot of people who do pursue the degree. It just has to have the foundationals. It depends where you're coming from. I think, for instance, in the Pentecostal tradition, we have always been told that education is not important. Even if you could study to be a doctor, it doesn't matter. God is number one. We used to have a song like that, Jesus is number one. But that is no excuse. If we're talking of this omniscient and massive God, in our small minds, we've got to be able to find ways of trying to understand how God operates. Is there a God at all? We don't want to be running around here believing what is not existing. So you find that it's always a challenge to try and understand God. As I said earlier, you're trying to empty the ocean in a teacup, but that challenge is one that must be taken.
Dr. Moros, do you also find that in ministry or in churches that people don't think that they can pursue theology because they think that you must be a pastor or a priest or a bishop or something in that line, and therefore they don't venture into that, and most of the time when I sit with them, then they realize it, but I can actually pursue that. Some will go most probably just as far as a bachelor's in theology, but it's a solid foundation. So within the mind of 40 million people in South Africa, do you think there's a form of ignorance around our communities?
Well, Dr. Carl, it's mostly among the Pentecostal charismatic organizations where they really do not encourage people to study theological degrees. But recently, quite a few years ago, there is quite a number of Pentecostal academics that has come to the fore. And they outthink the old regime of theologians. I'm thinking about Professor Gatle, that has made it a career in theology. He's one of the best theologians that you can get. Even Dr.
What's his field?
His field is Pentecostal theology.
Okay.
And even our friend here, Dr. Mochechane, he is very good in history. So he is a historian theologian. Yes. So in the Pentecostal and charismatic churches, we really don't encourage that. We encourage people to seek the Spirit, and we cut off their minds and tell them that, you only need the Spirit to do that. But yes, things are changing. We are there. You are there, Dr. Carl. We are making an impact. You are making an impact amongst the community, amongst South Africans, amongst the Americans that you visit. I'm making an impact. Dr. Mochechane makes an impact, and we do it for free. We would like to help our people, to pursue. And it is knowledge. It is knowledge. You'll find in our degrees, you won't be surprised that even people that do their master's and doctoral thesis, they come to us as theologians because they don't know how to draw up their proposals and how to do all their research work.
And what you mean by that is people in other fields like medicine and
yes, and law.
And law, yeah. But I must just admit, I really respect the field of theology because it's really vast. There's so many people that doesn't know there's linguistics within it. There's languages within it. There's history within it. It's such a vast field of study and a beautiful field as well. And one of the oldest industries that you can study of. I mean, if you look at the integrity of the Bible, as old as it is, there's integrity from the Old Testament right into the New Testament, and every word still stands after all these years, and yet so many things has changed over the years, if it's medicine or if it's in geography or in any other field. So I want us to get into the meaty side of our discussion here today, and therefore I want to invite you, please, if you have questions, it doesn't matter what question we have around theology, any contribution that you want to have, our producer is ready to bring it into the studio. So ask anything that you want to ask, anything. We are ready to give you answers on it. So I want us to talk a little about the different disciplines. And most probably looking at the biblical theology. And I want to go to the historical theology, your field per se. Share a little about your leg in your field if people want to pursue theology in that field.
Yeah. I am more into Pentecostal history. How did Pentecostalism start? Part of it was for me to answer personal questions. I was wrestling with issues to say, but what is this that people are so heated about? They speak in tongues, they jump around and so on. Is there some sense to what these people are doing? Because I didn't want to be following something that wouldn't work for me, even spiritually, Excuse me. But the history of Pentecostalism.
Go ahead.
Okay. The history of Pentecostalism, to say this is a revival inclined movement that for a long time was associated with negligence and ignorance and so on. Can we be smart about Pentecostalism? I mean, smart not in the sense of intelligence, IQ, but does it make sense? You don't want to follow something that doesn't make sense. And and also when I met my own personal challenges, and at some point I was asking, is there something called Spirit? Is there something called Christ? Is there something called God? I wanted to be able to believe. For me, I grew up in the Assemblies of God, so much of what I knew was what I fed. What I was fed. So when I went out there, it was to try and answer the questions that were springing up from within me with regard to this. And that's how I got to interview people on the ground, read about those who've gone before us, and then come up with my own conclusions, because I didn't want to be following so much what other people have said, unlike what I have discovered.
So give us one of your discoveries in your research.
Sorry?
Give us one of your discoveries within your research.
Yeah. You know how Pentecostalism is more about the Spirit. And not even so much about the Spirit as it is about speaking in tongues. For a lot of people, you are a valuable or valid Christian if you have spoken in tongues. If you've never spoken in tongues, you do not have the experience of the Holy Spirit. That is a troubling question to a lot of people, because then at some point it means you cannot be a Christian unless you have spoken in tongues. And Dr. Morris will tell you how that was emphasized when we were out at SAST. Speak in tongues, not be filled with the Spirit, but speak in tongues. The two are not the same. But then I started studying the Galatian letter and found that, but there is more to spirituality than speaking in tongues. I know a lot of people who speak in tongues, but their spirituality is highly questionable. Spirituality is you grow in it. You grow in it. You become today better than you were tomorrow, and tomorrow better than you were today. It is the life of Christ unfolding in you. So it's not something that's dependent on whether you speak in tongues or not. It's how much you yield yourself to the power of the Spirit.
Dr. Morris,
Yes.
help us, for somebody watching out there, the different legs and branches of theology. So people might say, I'm not sure which field, which direction I should go. So if I'm not wrong, I think you are a systematic theologian.
That's correct.
Yeah. So just give the different fields and background there.
Yeah, systematic theology is one of the branches in theology. It has to do mostly with the doctrine of the church, the doctrine of God, the doctrine of the Holy Spirit, and all doctrinal issues. That is what systematic theology is all about. In South Africa, there is very few people that pursue systematic theology because of its impact, or that it makes. Then we get practical theology. Practical theology is more for those that has got a calling or those that wants to pursue to be a pastor. Practical theology, you study basically, principles of teaching, principles of preaching, hermeneutics, the praxis of church-related issues. That is practical theology. Then you get the biblical studies, which is Old Testament and New Testament. Old Testament and New Testament for us, that is much over 60 now. It's very difficult because of the languages, Greek and Hebrew, so we don't pursue that. Then there's missiology. Missiology is what people don't understand as well. They think missiology is all about missions, going out there and evangelizing. It is more than just evangelizing. It's to look at the social, political conditions of the people that you would like to bring into the church. How is the social, political conditions, the marginalized, the poor, the disinherited, the forgetful people? That is what missiology is all about, and that is where you have become an expert, Dr. Carl. And yes, there's also a field in theology called theological ethics, and that is where Dr. Mochechane has also, made his mark when he was at Garrett University in the States, where he researched on Martin Luther and the conditions of the South African conditions in 1976, because he was a runaway from South Africa to Garrett, and he landed up in Garrett University, and he met up a lot of professors there. Your latest professor died 2 years ago, Mary Ruther. She's one of the best women theologians that you can get. So that is the branches of theology.
Fantastic. Is there any value that you want to add on that one?
Maybe to say the days of not being an informed, at least. We're not talking so much certificates and diplomas. I'm coming more from the point of view that we moved from a point of ignorance to tell people about Christ. And for many of us, somewhere down the line, life threw questions that we couldn't answer, neither could the gospel we are preaching answer for us. So, and you cannot deal with these issues unless you are studying somewhere. It's one thing to read, it's another thing to. So for me, I really picked up the degrees along the way because I'm what you might call a bookworm. I never really set out to say, this is what I want to do. But I had this inquiring spirit. Why is this happening? If there is a God, why is this happening? And where else could I go except to go to the scriptures themselves and to others who have written on the same subject, you know. So Paul said to Timothy, study to show thyself approved unto God, a workman that needeth not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth.
The journey of theology, Dr. Morris.
Yes.
Give us the outline from bachelor's in theology to an honors to a master's to a PhD and so on. How long is this journey? And I guess some people get weary down the line and so on. But give us more or less an outline when you start with the first degree up to a PhD.
Right. The audience out there, you can get your calculator out because you are not going to get a degree in 15 days. That's a myth. But starting with your undergraduate degree, you need at least around 40 courses. And every course is about 3 credits. Those institutions out there that advertise their courses are 20 credits, it is nonsense. A course in undergraduate degree in biblical or theological studies is 3 credits. So it is broken up as follows, your undergraduate degree, the Bible. They give you some courses in the Bible. You're not only going to do the Bible, but some courses in the Bible is going to be Corinthians, Romans and Galatians, Genesis, the Synoptic Gospels, etc. Then you get a breakup of theological courses. Your theological courses is a course like Christology, pneumatology, apologetics, eschatology, etc. Then you get church ministries because you need to understand how churches operate. You get a course like human relations, expository preaching, counseling, etc. And then, of course, what the Christians out there don't like is the general education. You get mathematics as well. You get principles of teaching, sociology, introduction to philosophy, where we run, all of us would try to run away from philosophy. And we also get educational psychology, etc. But it takes about 128 degree credits. And if you've got a matric exemption, it will take about 96 credits. Then from your undergraduate degree, then you get to the honors. The honors presently at UNISA is 5 courses. 5 courses. It is, the first one is research in practical theology. You need to understand the research methods. And then you get research report. Your research report is a small report that you've got to do, that you've got to submit between 30 and 50 pages for the examiners to approve your honors. Then you also get a course in advanced pastoral care and counseling. You also get a course preaching and worship in African context, and religious education is the next one. And by the way, I see this year, UNISA, most of these courses, you don't even write an exam. They give you a mark according to your submission of your assignments, which is very good. The only hard thing is your research report. And then you get your master's in theology. From your honors takes about 2 to 3 years. You can do it in 1 year, but then you must do it full time. When people go to work 8 o'clock at their desk and they knock off 5 o'clock, you need to be in the books 8 to 5. Otherwise, you're not going to make it. But for part-time, it takes about 2 to 3 or 4, 5 years. It depends. You need to read. if you do theology, you need to read not only the Bible, you need to read books. If you're not a reader, you are not going to make it. Then you get the masters. The masters in theology, there's the full dissertation, where you just decide on a topic with your promoter, with your helper or your counselor. Full dissertation. You give a topic, and they decide the topic is relevant or not. And then there's the structured program. Presently, the only university that I picked up that has got a structured master's is Stellenbosch. The structured master's is about 3 courses, and then a mini dissertation. The mini dissertation must be also between 60 and 100 pages. And I can give you context there. The context of Stellenbosch is Professor Reginald. He used to pastor a church in Rivoli. So he's now the head of theology at Stellenbosch. In Free State, you can contact Professor Eugene Barron. He's also one of us. And then at UNISA, you can contact Professor Gatle, Professor Modise, Professor Kobo, who is a very good feminist theologian. And then you get your doctoral. After the master's is the doctoral. You cannot get a doctoral degree if you don't have a master's. So this institutions that is giving us, I have a conversation now or an argument with an organization that wants to give a doctoral degree to one of the pastors in the Free State, a well-known prominent pastor, a preacher of the word, and because of his age, he really wants to grab it, and we said to him, don't spoil your reputation, you know. And so you get your doctoral. I mean, my doctoral information was in my head for 10 years. For 10 years, I walk around with it. I wrote on books. I dreamt about it. I wrote it down. So 4, 6, 8, 5. To get to a doctoral degree, it will take you about 13 years, even much longer.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I think we've got some questions here. Thank you so much for that beautiful outline there, Dr. Morris. And people, please, if you have questions, we are ready to read a few. If you have questions out there, we are really open to help and assist. The beauty part of today's show is that we have fine gentlemen in the studio that's prepared to help you, to take you by the hand, to guide you through it, to help you to sign on at any university of your choice. We're really open to help and assist because the main aim is to get more people to show interest in theology, which is a beautiful career to pursue. Well, we have our producer with us here that will give us a few. Is it questions or comments?
So there's some comments and then there's a question.
Good.
So firstly, good morning to everybody who has joined us. Thank you so much once again for your interest in such an important topic. Firstly, I'd like to greet on Facebook Zenith Lakey. She says, great Dr. Allen. And then we've got Ronald Jones saying, great show, doctors, my favorite show. And then on YouTube, we've got Llewellyn saying, good morning, Dr. Carl, and esteemed guest. Sonia saying, good morning to the doctors in the room. This morning we are here to learn, unlearn, and relearn. And then we've got Brian saying, greetings all in the name of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. He continues to say that the key is the life of Christ growing in you. Then there's a question here by Mutlaudi Pitse, and it says, greetings, how do your guests see the value of eco-theology? So theology through the lenses of care for the ecology, in addressing modern and pressing challenges like climate change. And then Sonia just comments and says, yeah, students submit continuous assessments for their research and research projects. No more exams for these modules is what she's just echoing with what Dr. Morris said. And she says, thank you, Dr. Morris, for outlining and clarifying.
Right.
Well,
yeah.
Well, let me say hello to Zena there. I knew you were going to come in and listen to the show. You are a great help in the ministry, Zena. Thank you for giving to the church of your resources. So I appreciate you. Thank you for coming into the show. Then to Peter, yes, I was just this morning in your area, man. And you know, you invited me at the launch of your celebration of your master's degree in ecology. So I think you already know my answer to that. But Dr. Mochechane is going to answer you that, you know, this is God's world, and we need to take care of our world. Yeah, I'm still waiting for your seeds. There's an organization, Peter. You still need to give me seeds. There's a massive field, man, that we need to plow. Thank you.
Okay, Mwatudi Peter. The question of ecology is obviously a new area for a lot of people. You know, if we were preachers and if we were Pentecostal, our main concern was going to heaven and shouting glory, hallelujah all the time. But then we realize as we move along that you cannot ignore the ecosystem was brought into the picture before the human being was even brought into the picture. We've got to be able to take care of nature if nature must take care of us. What has happened over the years is that we have exploited the ecosystem for our own purposes. I'm talking about a system like capitalism, for instance. It has always been the issue of profit first, before the habitability of the world around us. But certainly theology. Now, I'm sure most people have not heard about eco-theology. You know, but it is just that fascinating area that makes us understand and look around and take care of the Garden of Eden that God has given us. It's no longer everything for our use. It's us also taking care of the system. That interaction of saying, if you have a beautiful garden, it's not that you want to be in a municipality competition or something like that. But it's lovely to be around an area that will breathe fresh air, the plants, everything related to the ecosystem is also related to God and ultimately related to you. It must be taken care of.
Well, who believed there will ever be a time that you will study eco-theology? Unbelievable. I want to bring Leandra into the studio now, because there was an article that you posted somewhere in the beginning of this year, Dr. Morris, and you most probably will not remember it, you might. You reposted that article. And I want Leandra just to read the introduction of that article, and then we're going to venture into this beautiful part of the research proposal.
Thank you. So Dr. Alan Morris posted on his personal Facebook page on the 25th of January 2022. He says this article was written by Pastor Hermie Damons, and the Pentecostal and Charismatic churches simply ignore this valuable information. A doctoral graduate should prove his competency in his ability to research, collect and disseminate data, and ideally produce new information, develop and write a comprehensive thesis about the new discovery in the field of study, hopefully illuminating an area in the field that has never been seen before or might have been obscure to others in the field previously. This would make this individual an expert on the subject, being vetted and acknowledged by his peers. Let us now place these into the context of church-based higher education. To merely write a 150-page exposition on your favorite preaching topic, based on the books and sermons of your favorite preacher, does not make for an academic thesis. especially if your thesis does not produce new information and does not necessarily illuminate a specific or new field of study. If your thesis fails to elevate you into the company of academic experts, then the title of doctor cannot be rightly conferred upon you. Simply put, because you have faithfully served for decades as a pastor in your congregation, denomination, or movement, in and of itself is not a justification for the conferring of an honorary doctoral degree either. Goes on to say, how can one receive a doctoral degree without a thesis? How can one receive a doctoral degree by reading 15 textbooks? How can one receive a doctoral degree within 2 years? How can one receive a doctoral degree with subjects as Hebrew feasts, covenants of the Bible, biblical numerology?
Well, before we venture, thank you, Leandra. Before we venture into the unpacking of the research proposal, starting from the research topic to introduction and. What's your take about the doctors that whatever is happening in South Africa now is really a great concern, because you cannot say much about calling, like a evangelistic calling, a pastoral calling, a apostolic calling, and so on, because really that's not our field. But rather interesting that people want to pursue that and want to pursue the academic. They want the highest calling within the spiritual realm or in the calling of the fivefold ministry, and then they want to attach this PhD to that calling as well. Why do you think that's happening in South Africa, if it's only South Africa?
Yeah, let me first comment on what Leandra has been reading here. Yeah, that is interesting, and I agree with the gentleman that wrote that. And that is why I also put it on my personal Facebook. Look, a PhD or a doctorate in theology, it's called a PhD. PH basically means philosophy. But it has got nothing to do with philosophy. And the D stands for doctor. I usually say a PhD is past high school with distinction. So that is what we've done. I've majored or my topic was to look at the prophetic voice, after liberation. And the two people that I spoke about is Dr. Ellen Busak, one of the most recognized and educated person in our country. And then also Dr. What is his name? Okay, but
Bishop Tutu.
No, not Tutu.
Frank Chikane.
Frank Chikane.
Frank Chikane. Oh.
Yes, that is the two people that I looked at, and I've concentrated only on that. So if you talk about the prophetic voice, you cannot tell me something else, because I read in that direction, I interview in that direction. It doesn't mean that I know everything, but I'm going to tell you that we need the prophetic voice in South Africa desperately even now in order to speak forth, not to predict, not prediction, but to speak truth to power, corruption, health system, our education system, etc. So that was my concentration. The issue that our pastors, specifically our Pentecostal charismatic pastors, is running for this title of doctor. It's because of these institutions that is trying to tell our pastors that you need this title. And it's also because of our leaders are so hungry for a title. I mean, before it used to be bishops and prophets, and now it is this doctorate thing. I mean, how can you get a doctorate, but you're doing a subject like adult faith development? You get a doctorate. Leading Christian organizations, they give you a doctorate. Revival history, what is that? Dr. Mochechane has concentrated on the International Assemblies of God history. And that is where he majored in his doctoral degree. He didn't talk about the whole history of the church. So these guys, or these institutions, they are misleading our people. I mean, the other day there was somebody that was on TV. He says he's the Moses of the black people. And he's giving doctoral degrees left, right, and center. I'm telling you, maybe in 5 years' time, every pastor in the Pentecostal Charismatic Church will have a doctorate. But when they come to present, they don't know how to present it or what did they write about it. They don't even know how to reference their work. But we are here to help you. Pastors, if you're out there, I'm doing it for free. Let me take you through the process. Undergraduate, honors, masters, then your doctoral degree. But if you have got some experience, there is also in the university what they call a recognition of prior learning. There's a lot of people that I've helped, and they are busy this year with their masters because of the recognition of prior learning. They have been pastors for the last 20, 25 years, and the universities has accredited them and told them you can come into the program, do that courses, and you are in. So we are here to help. Leave those bogus institutions. You know, some of those bogus, let me name them for you. Bogus institutions: Good Shepherd College of Religion, Culture and Training, Team Impact University, Emmanuel Theology University, Heritage of Faith Bible Institute. The most culprit is Calvary University and Berkeley University, the Bible Institute of Southern Africa, Elkanah Bible College, Generational Impact Bible College. These are all bogus colleges. They take your money, their doctoral degrees is even a printed document from your printer. They send it to your computer, they say, no, print your document. Then they organize the church, even a small Nyana church. They get dressed, their gear, outside of the church, and they walk in. We would like to encourage people to walk to the stage of the universities. I mean, the other day there was a father that received his daughter's degree. She couldn't make it because death took her away. But the father was allowed to receive her degree in absentia.
Dr. Mochechane, can you most probably just help to unpack a little around the whole research proposal? What's needed for a research proposal and the outline that goes with that?
Excuse me. Doctoral studies in the first place is intended to respond to a question. As somebody said, there are always more questions than answers. From the day that you believe and your experience of faith is unfolding, there are questions that keep coming up. And the point here is to say, it's not to throw out what you don't understand, but it is to seek answers around what you don't understand, and then to share with the rest of us what you have found, which is the point where we're saying you cannot answer 101 questions, so to say. You've got to pick one. Pick one meaningful question. So the first thing about research is that your research must be around a meaningful question, in the sense that if you don't do something meaningful, the work involved as you move along might become too cumbersome. You have the question, it is meaningful, and you know when to find the information. You can't write about something that you have no information about. So like they say, the question is important, because the question, you have the issue of being able to arrive at the problem You've got to give a good description of what your problem is. And when we say problem, we're not saying, we're saying, what is the issue here? What are you addressing? It tends to give focus to the information that you want to give rather than have you jump all over the place. It gives relevance to the research that you have to do. And there's now a lot of information on the internet with regard to writing a proposal, how to formulate a question, and those sources, like I say, have become, those books that Dr. Allen has there, they are very helpful in helping you formulate a good proposal. In the end, a proposal is intended to communicate, let's say, to your mentor, to say, okay, this is what I want to do. Because mentors are there for a purpose. They will always be saying, okay, this question here is not researchable or is researchable. When I started, somebody was saying, oh no, NBH Bengu, not many people have written on him and so on. So I turned that narrative around, because I did find the information, and I got the information, maybe not from the Assemblies of God, because they would not have let me write on their main person, you know. But I'm saying, if you talk about answering a problem, you've got to be able to find the information. That is where when we talk referencing, in good research, you don't just start knowing. You know, you've got to be able to say where you got the information, so that if somebody comes along later on, they will be able to go to your source. If you know the original source, all the better, because then people go to the original source and compare what you said with what they are reading, and maybe they can also arrive at their own conclusions. That's why with these professors, there's always, no, I don't agree, no, I agree, and so on and so forth. There is this dynamism of interaction of ideas which enriches this whole thing, because none of us knows everything. But if you start engaging with others in the same field about the same issues, it brings about a robust area of engagement. Now, one of the things that your Pentecostal, most at least, one reason we are so good at faking is precisely that. Number one, we like these positions even if we don't want to work for them. When I did my PhD at the University of KwaZulu-Natal, if my mind didn't blow, never going to blow again. The point being, you've got to come out on the other side feeling an achievement. I have really answered my question. It's not so much the paper. We appreciate that you have the paper and so on and so forth, but did you answer the question you set out to research, read what other people are saying? Read what other people are saying about the same question, because then you might just repeat what somebody else has said, and they might just say you have stolen his idea or something like that. So you go out there, that's where your literature review comes in. Yes. You read, so that when I come around and say, no, this is not it. I know I have read somewhere, and what you're saying is, I'm not criticizing you because I have personal issues with you, but this is wide open. We all get to engage. You know.
Dr. Mochechane, thank you so much for that contribution. Dr. Morris, I want more for us to get to the structure of the research. Just to give somebody an outline out there, we've got about under 5 minutes just to get to that. But if you want to pause a little, like on the research topic, and give an idea on the introduction, the problem statement, and so on, I will appreciate that.
Yeah. To answer that, let me first just comment on what Dr. Mochechane says. You've never told the audience or the listeners that the Assemblies of God International, those guys in the States, they actually blocked you from entering their library because they didn't want you to reveal their secrets. But you pressed and you went through. Yeah, with your research, the first thing that you've got to do is an introduction. At the introduction, you must consider the title. What is your title? The title should not be longer than 12 words. If it is too long, then it doesn't make sense. So 12 words is important. Then the second point, it should be your problem statement. What is the problem that you are investigating? In mine, the problem statement was the silence of the church, the prophetic silence of the church. And then the third one is the main research question and hypothesis. Hypothesis is a calculated guess as to what the answer to a research question will be. So it will be your research question, but you'll also have to have a hypothesis. You take a calculated guess what your end result will be. Then the next step is the aims of the research study. You need to have one main aim and maybe sub-category aims in your research. The next step will be your theoretical framework. And then the next one will be your research design and methodology. Now this is all that these fake doctoral degrees is not telling people what to do. And then in your research design and methodology, you will have to have a literature study. The literature study is to integrate what others have said before. Or you can also criticize previously scholarly works. You can build bridges between related topics, identify the central issues in a field. And then your next step, 6 in this, is interviews. How you will do your interviews. And then the structure of your research, your chapter headings, and how you will structure it, and then your summary. That is what I can say. However, there's four quality or research designs that one can choose before you start with your doctoral degree. There's what they call the narrative research. Narrative is you collect stories from individuals and documents and conversations. That is what I have done. I ran to the university. I sat there from morning to night. You know, I came home around about 10 in the evening from UNISA, you know, trying to collect documents. You won't realize how much documents Dr. Ellen Busak has got there in that library. Not only books, but letters written by pen and pencil, you know, even CDs that he's been involved with, you know. So that's the narrative. Then there's what we call the phenomenological research. So the phenomenological research is you reduce individual experiences with the phenomena. You've got to find a phenomena in order to do this research. And then there's grounded theory research, and that is where you have mastered your grounded theory. So Dr. Carl can tell us more about grounded theory. It's a heavy exercise. It's sleepless nights. Your family will go, they will go to bed, and when they wake up to go to work, you are still there trying to in grounded theory, to put words together in a certain category, you know. So I don't know, how can you get it in 15 days? And then there's ethnographic research that you can choose. It focuses on the entire culture of a sharing group. So you don't only interview an individual in that area, but you interview the whole cultural group in order to come to answers. And then there's case study research. Case study is more for psychology, medicine, law, and political science. So you can follow one of these 5 research designs. I've got quite a few books here. You know, if you're in that. There's a book here by Creswell.
I'll keep it up for the studio.
That book you cannot find. You'll go to the library will say that there's one in stock, but they can never find it. Then there's the same one, it's choosing 5 approaches. Choosing 5 approaches. Yes. But the one I like is when you start off, academic writing by Kevin Smith. Kevin Smith is a local guy, but if you start off, that is the book that you must have until the end. You start off with it for your undergraduate, and you have it until the end. Then there's research at grassroots level. I saw this book on your desk this morning. You know, your kitchen is full of books, man. Do you cook there? Yeah. And then how to succeed in your masters. That is some of the books. You know, and then we've got the experts here.
Yeah.
You know, we're a phone call away, or we're an appointment away.
Yeah. Again, just based on what Dr. Morris was just saying now, we want to open this for you. Dr. Morris really availed himself to guide and walk with you. It's a beautiful opportunity. There will be a number on. You can contact our office, 494-1363. It will be online. And we will also have the gentleman's Facebook attachments there. Feel free to connect with us. We would so much want to walk with you. And maybe you don't want to do a PhD at the end, and you just want to do a bachelor's in theology and just understand the basics of theology. It's good. But I guarantee you, when you're done with your first degree, did you also find it? You want to get into the other. And the other is just like, specifically when you're a student of the word. Everybody out there, thank you so much for tuning in. I can't believe our hour is gone. Can you believe that? And we did not even scratch the surface. But this will be a beautiful platform. If you want anyone to study any further in theology, send them the link. It will help them with the outline and also the availability of the gentleman in the studio to help you. Dr. Mochechane and Dr. Alan Morris, from me to you, thank you so much for your kindness. Just closing remarks, please.
Yeah, we are ready for you. You can set up, a workshop in your church, wherever you are, in Cape Town, in Durban, in Johannesburg, in Limpopo. We will come to you and we will work through that workshop. No cost involved. As long as we can have something to drink and to eat, then we are happy. Thank you for listening in, and be blessed.
Be blessed. Dr. Mochechane.
I'm going to say it very shortly. Study to show thyself approved unto God, a workman that needeth not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth.
Thank you so much. To everybody out there, please make use of this beautiful, wonderful opportunity to study this beautiful career of theology. I want you also just to hit that button there and sign on, and whenever we're on, you will know. May God bless you. May God keep you. All the best from me to you. Take care from the Inside Show, and good day for now.
Imagine if you have your vision as the car with the right team. Imagine how quick that vision will come into the footsteps. Something that was taking 5 years takes 3 months.
This morning is all about leadership and influence.